Hello, hello. It's saying I'm live, but I'm seeing in my preview that it's not live. So I'm wondering, anybody in the chat box that can hear me, if you could let me know, that would be great. So welcome everyone. Just a moment. Great, Peg. Can you see anything on the screen? You should see like the homepage of Algebra 1 teachers. Oh, I really appreciate you guys' feedback. Thank you, Susan and Peg. It's helping me. I'm just not seeing it on my screen. So I'm wondering, I'm just going to hit my refresh here. Let's see what we can get done here. There it is. Okay, well, maybe. Yay. Okay, so I've got the homepage up too, Peg. Thank you. I think I just had to hit refresh. So I'm going to move my mic around and get everything organized real quick. And then we do have a couple minutes before we're going to get started. Let's see what we can think. I'm going to let Deborah know. I had to hit refresh on the page and then let's see, be sure to hit play twice. All right, so there is a delay. You'll probably notice because you could probably hear me typing a little bit, but there is a delay of about, they say about 30 seconds, but I feel like it's more like 2 minutes. It's probably just because I'm the one presenting. It always feels really long to me. And I'm just going to move this mic a little closer to make it easier for you to hear. And we are going to get started here in about 1 minute. I just want to make sure the presentation would load. I had to use a different computer this time because last time mine was not working well with playing well with Google. And now I'm having some issues where it's not wanting to show my screen, my slides. So I'm just going to double check that real quick and then we'll be ready to go. Well, I created a backup plan here, so maybe we'll go for that. Kathy seems to have nothing here. Let's see. All right, so well, let's go for the backup plan here. My slides are showing on my screen, but I see they're not showing on yours. So there we go. I kind of saved them on an online platform just to make sure. There it goes. Okay, it's catching up with me now. So we'll go with the backup plan. That's fine. No big deal here. We've got our slides ready. All good volume-wise. And that might be because, Kathy, that I am trying to use our backup plan for the slides. They were not wanting to load up in the program that I had, switching computers and so forth. But I do have some backups here after last time. If you were with us last time, we had quite a few technical difficulties, and I'm working on getting my new computer, and it's not quite here yet. So I'm using my husband's today, and I created my slides on one program, and then it wouldn't load in his. So it's been kind of a struggle a little bit, but that's how technology goes. We're pretty flexible here. I see some of you are in 8th grade, and while we're just waiting for the last couple of people, I see some people are still coming to the website and logging in, which is wonderful. We are going to get started here in just a minute. If you have not had a chance to introduce yourself, please feel free to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to be watching the chat box and making sure everybody can see everything. So Kathy, I was wondering if you're able to see kind of the slide that just says Algebra 1 year, making the pieces fit. Okay, so Cheryl, you've got all the ages. I saw some people, Kimberly, you've got, it looks like mostly 8th graders, algebra in 7th grade. So Thomas, you are really hitting them a little bit young, which for some kids, that's exactly what they need. For a lot others, it's not. So it's interesting to see. I did teach algebra in 8th grade and to some 7th graders, and then had the geometry in 8th grade for a little while for those advanced students. And then Deborah can't hear anything, so let's see what we can do to help her. Let's see. And it is 5 after, so we are going to get started right after this. Mainly 8th graders. All right. I love to see you guys chatting. Okay, so I'm wondering if Deborah needs to hit refresh. And if she's just missing the volume. Yeah, it's only a still picture right now while we move it along. Why don't we go ahead and get started? I wanted to make sure that everybody got just a minute to talk to each other. It sounds like most of you can hear me, and that is fabulous. I'm really excited. Margaret, you've got the 9th and 10th graders for algebra. Okay, so this is really great for me to see because it's quite a varying age group, but they all seem to struggle in the same area. So I'm really excited to kind of hit this today. Just to go over a couple of housekeeping things. When you let's see here. It's scrolling a little quick. Let's see if we can get it a little slower here. There we go. So we took a minute. My name is Jeanette Stein, and I teach Algebra 1, and I have taught Algebra 1 in some form for 17 years. So I started in Florida in Newport Richey. I absolutely loved it. For all of you Pasco County, Florida folks, last time I had somebody actually teaching in the building I started in. She was much younger than me. I don't like to admit that, but I started in Pasco County, Florida, teaching algebra to 9th graders and 10th and 11th graders. And I taught it in some of those kids. I taught it over 2 years. So I got to have those same students for 2 years. And then I also taught kids who didn't do well in Algebra 1 in 9th grade. They kind of took a modified, like if they got a C or a D or they really struggled, they took a modified algebra in 10th grade. And so I've had all of those variations. And then I've also had the honors where I've taught them in 7th and 8th grade. And so I've seen all the different levels of them struggling and succeeding and needing those extra pushes. And so this is something that's I'm really passionate about. So a couple of things, good heavens. A couple of things that I'm really excited to go over. But before we do that, let's go ahead and talk about resolution. The resolution at the bottom, if you are able to click at the bottom right-hand side, it's a YouTube video, and a lot of times it will default to the resolution that's not very sharp. So when you're looking at the screen, it will look a little bit fuzzy. If that's you, you can just click that resolution box down at the bottom. And then there's obviously the chat box on the right. I do require you to log in. I know some people don't like that. They don't want to have to log into one more thing. What I noticed, I tried it one time without people logging in, and you just get a bunch of people who want to be on your chat box that aren't teachers and have nothing to contribute but junk. So by having you log in, it kind of keeps those spam people out and those creepers out. And so thank you for understanding and going ahead and logging in. So we've got so many states covered here, and it's interesting to me to just take a look at where you're all from. I'm really enjoying that. And then at the end, I have the certificate link, and I also have a great deal for you to show you some of the resources we've got, and a great deal for you if you are thinking about checking out our membership. Make sure you stick around to the end, because I'm thinking that you will really enjoy the deal there. So today we've talked about it. You've gotten the emails. I do apologize if you got two yesterday morning. I had some issues with my email provider, and they sent out a rough draft of one of them. So I do apologize if that was yours. But what we'll cover today is we're going to understand those standards in order to save time. And maybe some of the things here I'm going to say are maybe a little controversial, or you've heard otherwise. I'm totally open for discussion, but I really feel that second one, when you create problem solvers, it really alleviates some of the time issues that we're going to have here. And then some of those resources that make teaching the standards and creating those problem solvers easier. And then we're going to talk a little bit about creating that personalized plan to get it all done. And so sometimes getting everything fit in and feeling like, how in the world am I going to teach all of these things, gets really, really overwhelming. So I'm still seeing people popping in. I am so excited. We've got so many people still coming in that I'm really excited about that. If you are just getting here, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. The one thing I just got done saying, and I'm going to say it one more time because it's hard to see the standards and stuff if the resolution is poor, feel free to, in the bottom right-hand side, maybe I'll just show you guys real quick because it was an issue in the last two webinars as well. Oops. So if you go and you're looking at the webinar, and it's going to be kind of a, once I hit play, you'll see down here in the corner, you get the settings. And if you click those settings, the quality for mine was really low. And if you want to change that to the HD, it is going to look so much clearer for you, and you're going to be able to read the slides and be able to see them. And then also, if you wanted to, you can make it full screen so that it'll take up your whole screen and it'll be larger. Because I know on my webpage, I tried to make it smaller so that we could have the chat box right next to it. That was some feedback I've gotten from before. Please don't put the chat box underneath because you can't see both at the same time. So I hope that helps you to be able to see a little bit better. So we've got all sorts of people still getting here. Lots of people from North Carolina. You guys should hook up maybe. I've been thinking and trying to talk my husband into a road trip down there. I know we've got a lot of subscribers and folks from North Carolina. So welcome. I hope you guys are not having stormy weather today. Last time I talked to somebody from North Carolina, they were having some weather. So this is what we're going to cover in the next probably 30 to 45 minutes, and then we'll have some time for questions. Let's see, we have another person who can't quite see anything. Let's see, let's get her. Oops. Oh, I'm so glad it's beautiful. It's Michigan, it's been snowing like crazy, not till March. And we have probably a foot and a half out there. And for the next week, it's supposed to be in the 60s. So it'll be a little bit muddy, but my kids are out there building snow forts and it's it's great. So I love seeing them play outside, but I'm excited for the warm weather as well. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I am going to stop and ask for questions and feedback sometimes, but I'd really like to get right into this. So I sent you a link and I hope you got it okay. I've been having some issues with my email providers I mentioned earlier. And so I tried to send you, if you didn't get our skills list yet, in the email, you'll probably get it here in the next couple minutes if you haven't already, but you should be able to download the skills list either for ninth grade or eighth grade, depending on which one fits well for you. The only difference there, really, and I got quite a few emails, and I apologize if I didn't get back to yours immediately, but they said, what's the big difference here? And really, I wanted to really hit this on the standards. There's not a lot of difference. There's a lot of overlap. So when we look at this one, I wanted to break it down really well. And so I took something right out of Unit 2. In Unit 2, we talk about slope, and we're going to come back to this very common Algebra 1 topic, calculating slope. So I try to keep it very simple. I say, what skill do they need to know? They need to know slope. But what do the actual Common Core standards say about it? And so this, good heavens. I apologize about that. Going with my backup here, and it's kind of frustrating. So the eighth grade one is on top, and it says compare properties of two functions. I apologize. Yes, this is the eighth grade one. So compare properties of two functions, each represented in a different way. So they want it algebraically, graphically, numerically, in tables, or by verbal description. And they're kind enough to give us an example. Give a linear function represented by a table of values and a linear function represented by an algebraic expression, and determine which function has the greater rate of change. So the big picture is there that they can calculate slope no matter what information they're given if it's a linear function. Now, if we look down below, we're in the high school standards. This one is the FIF6 functions, interpreting functions number 6. Calculate and interpret the average rate of change of a function represented symbolically or as a table over a specified interval, and estimate the rate of change from a graph. So you're going to see in the skills list that I have the linear ones put together in the beginning to help the students review what they've already learned and to understand what they already know. And you'll notice these standards are very, very similar. So I understood the email saying, well, what's so different about your skills list for ninth grade or high school, and then your skills list involving those eighth grade standards as well? Not a whole lot, because as you see, these standards overlap each other. Now, the one thing you want to remember with the high school level, within my lessons, the FIF6 is touched on again when we get into quadratics, because it does not specify linear. But as far as the linear functions here, these two standards are pretty similar and pretty much right on top of each other for what we need to know. Now, what I noticed with these standards, and I was one of those people that was really had an advantage when the Common Core was first out. My district sent me to an amazing amount of training that really helped me to understand exactly what these standards were looking. And we spent a lot of time reading them. Okay. And if you've never had a chance to go through and read them, and I know that sounds simple, but really, who's got time for that? But I would make a little bit of time to read through them, because sometimes when you go looking online for what the standards cover, it can be so overwhelming. Because if there's a couple websites that I really like. They ask really good thinking type questions. And when you go to all these, you're like, well, I need to teach. I need to teach the how to do it this way, and I need to teach slope this way, and it should be worded this way, and it should be worded that way. It can be so overwhelming. And so if we are taking a look at all these different examples and we try to teach the students every single one of those examples, we are not only going to frustrate them, but we're going to kill all their motivation because it's just too much. They can't comprehend those, and they honestly don't connect them in their brain to being the same type of thing. This is where I think we fall into the trap of, have you ever looked at the assessment results and you're looking at it and you're like, how in the world did they miss that one? We did that last week. Yeah, it's worded a little bit different, but shouldn't they be able to figure it out? When we try to cover every example they could see on the assessment, we really can run into making the students feel overwhelmed, and then the retention goes down. So we're going to talk about some strategies today that are really going to figure that out. And then before I go to the next slide, Catherine, if you did not get those skills lists, don't worry. I'll send you a thank you with the link again for some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So you'll get that skills list, and I'll make sure you've got it. So the standards, a lot of times, this was something we spent a lot of time in one of the trainings that I had the privilege of going to, that talked about the 912 standards. So if you have not had a chance to take a look at the Common Core Appendix A for math, it talks about where they overlap and what part of each standard needs to go into Algebra 1. So sometimes those standards will overlap into Algebra 2 or geometry. And when you first look at all the standards they list under Algebra 1, if you just go through and read them, it's like, wow, they want us to understand closure for, polynomials. And yes, they do want us to understand closure for polynomials and real numbers. And we're getting into complex numbers. Well, complex numbers are not expected in Algebra 1, but if you just read through the standards that they say are covered in Algebra 1 without looking at that Appendix A, how it breaks it up, you're going to be teaching more than what is required for Algebra 1. And it's really important that we go a little bit deeper and teach that problem solving more than just teaching everything under the sun and leaving our kids a little bit in the dirt there. So what we're going to work on is, instead of trying to teach every single example, we are going to work on teaching really great problem solving abilities. And when you really change your focus from creating a classroom where they're going to see 800 examples and they are going to know every way that question is worded so that they can be ready for the assessment, and we create them to be thinkers, this is really, really powerful. So I wanted to go in and pull up some of the resources so that we could really dive into this. So we're talking about creating problem solvers. And if we go back to that slope problem, we could have the students write questions that use this topic. I like having them even write questions dealing with certain numbers. So for example, where did we go? If we go into, I switched my computer here. Isn't that a great? My students helped me come up with that email like 8,000 years ago. And they just think it's the best thing ever. So I absolutely could not go changing it on them. It would have broke their heart. So I still have some of my students in Pasco County that helped me come up with that email address all those years ago when email was brand new. They still will email me, which is really cool. I still have a couple of students I keep in touch with from down there. All right, so when we go into our members area, we've got this brand new area that's 8th grade Algebra 1 extension resources. And what this is allows for some extra help for those 8th graders. And so we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I'm going to go down here. When we go to week 5 in our linear equations, we'll see our slope. And a lot of the resources are going to help students to see some of the problems. And when we go in here, I do include some of the lessons from outside. So we've got our famous shower versus bath lesson. This is one of the famous 3 acts lessons, and it's been played with quite a bit. And I did create a presentation to go along with that and a handout to go along with that to help them. So the idea is it cheaper to take a shower or a bath with the amount of water you're using and the amount of water that you are, the amount of water you're heating for a bath compared to the amount of water you're heating for your shower. And so they ask you to kind of think through this whole problem. And so we've got to be problem solvers with that. But at the same time, we also need that retention. And so if you wanted to take a look, we also have, some of those fluency type worksheets where we can go in and let's use the formula. Let's find the slope. But what I find really powerful for students to help them make the connections and be problem solvers is for them to take these numbers that are here and for them to be able to take these numbers and create a story problem about it. So I might say to them, these tests are coming up and you don't want me to go through every example they could come up with, but what kind of things could they ask about the slope? Now, 8th grade, people who have 8th grade algebra, so they are teaching algebra in the 8th grade. What I did was created a kind of supplement, because it's one thing if you're teaching slope in 9th grade and they've seen it before. They're not going to need the same kind of in depth. They're going to need more of the spent time on the problem solving. So when you go in, and if you're a member, this link was just put in today, so feel free to go in and check it out. And we have a ton of new resources going in even tomorrow on it. But I created a whole unit on functions, so representing linear functions with graphs, exploring slope, that slope-intercept form, that's all supposed to be covered as 8th grade standards while it's covered within the Algebra 1 content. Assuming they took it as 9th grade, they're going to need more in-depth coverage. And so that's what we've created, and we are just in the process of uploading. We'll be uploading all of this today, tomorrow, and Tuesday, and probably into Wednesday because we've created so much of it. So when you look at the activity for day 2, I wanted the slope one here for us. We've got negative slope, and we asked them to really look into it. But then we also want them to be able to do the fluency as well. So I'm wondering, okay, so Sandra is saying she teaches algebra to both 8th grade and 9th grade. And I'm wondering if you're noticing when you teach it to the 8th graders, it seems like if you're teaching it to both, that's what I used to do. My 8th graders were more advanced because they had placed into that or tested into that. And my 9th graders struggled a little bit more, but my 8th graders were missing some standards. And so that's why I created these extra resources to really give them the in-depth information and practice that they need. So when we go back to that functions, I also have the practice PDF that gives them that fluency and allows them to look at problems in different ways, see the problems in different ways so that they can apply it in a lot of different ways. And so we're hoping to get it covered here in both ways. So let's go back to the presentation, make sure I'm not getting too far off here. We want them to write questions that use this topic, the connections, if they are able to connect it and figure out what did they notice? What do they notice about the worksheet? What do they notice about those questions? A lot of times I'll hand out some practice. Maybe they're going to do it as a pair share. Maybe they're going to do it as independent practice. Sometimes I will cut up those worksheets and they will do those as stations. But however they're going to do it, I might want them to first, what do you notice about these problems? What's different? What's the same? What are you going to run into? Are you noticing any negatives, decimals? Are they all going to be positive answers? Are they all going to be negative answers? How can you tell? Anything that gets them thinking and processing will help them on those final assessments that unfortunately are so hooked to your evaluation. It drives me crazy. But those final assessments, if we can really get them to be the problem solvers and think, well, what do I notice and what do I know about this? Have we done these type of problems before? This will all come in extremely handy. So, and then I like to ask them, when have you learned something like this before? Because as you and I know, math builds on itself, but the students don't always make those connections. So how does this fit with what we learned yesterday? What about last week? What about last month? Last year? When did you learn something like this? How did your other teacher say it different? Is that okay? How did your other teacher say it the same? Should I say it different? And I want them to think of all the different ways on their own without me bombarding them with every possible scenario that they could see on an assessment. Because when you start doing that, the retention goes down. It's just too much. But if they make the connections themselves, the retention will go up. And there's so many studies about how those synapses connect. And when they connect, it's retained and it's retrievable because they hold that information, but it's not always retrievable. If we can have it connect to what they've learned and feel confident with before, they are going to be there for you. Okay. And then the activities, and then balancing that with the fluency. And so we showed you some activities that we do, anything that gets them connecting it to real world, what they already do. They take a bath or a shower, hopefully in 9th grade every day. There are all sorts of activities. Almost every lesson plan I have has an activity because I want them to connect it to where they are in the real world. So do you use activities every day that kind of help them connect it, or are you kind of sticking just with the fluency? Are you noticing that there's a balance? I would love to know which one you hit most. Do you do the activities most, or are you working with the fluency most? Or if you feel like you're just balanced, go ahead and click in that you're balanced there, because I would love to know what you think and how I can help you kind of create that balance. We know they need both. They need to connect it to help it connect with their brain, and they need the fluency. They've got to be able to have that algebraic connections there. I know there's a lag here, so I'm just waiting just a few minutes here so that maybe you would feel like giving me a little bit of feedback here. I would love to hear from you. All right. Activities first, then fluency. Tom, I agree with you. I think the activities help connect on the fluency. Now, Mike, I think that's really common. I think the fluency is really great, but if they don't connect it, I worry about the retention. I notice that when I get hurried, like I feel rushed at the end of the school year and I've got to cover too many things, I tend to focus more on the fluency, but then they don't retain as much. And so that can, it's hard because we're judged on all these things and we feel all this pressure for sure. Thank you so much, both of you, for adding to that. A balance of both. That's great, Sandra. It's really important for the kids to have that balance, but it can be really hard. I don't know about you. This time of year up in Michigan, the kids need to get out and run, and we're between sporting seasons, and the coaches often help me. Cheryl, you spend more time on fluency. Yeah, I feel your pain, Cheryl, where you feel like to get through the fluency. I'm wondering if they had, I'm wondering if they had the activities maybe shortened so that they could make the connection, if it would help them understand what they're doing, so the fluency would um, go at the same time. Rushed, 42-minute bells and lots of middle school interruptions. Oh, yeah, that is exactly where you're at. 42 minutes is really short for a class. Yeah, it can be really time consuming to find good activities. I try to ask good questions. Some of my activities are longer and some are shorter. It depends on what I think the kids are going to need that day. Yeah, it can be really hard. And I don't think of activities as make a poster and put these vocab words on them. I think of them as anything where they can pair and share and kind of process through what they're doing. Okay. Wow, I'm just reading through your comments real quick so that I can comment a little bit quicker. Mostly fluency. And, I think that's how we were taught, is mostly fluency. And if we're math teachers, we probably liked that. I think today's kids need to know that they're going to apply it somewhere. And if they don't see that they're going to apply it somewhere, which the activities, that's where they fall in, sometimes the fluency is just meaningless to them. I liked math. My mom and dad would kill me if they knew I was sharing. But my home life when I was younger, they argued a little bit, and they got in arguments a lot. And so doing that repetitive math fluency, I liked it. That was like my little safe place. I don't know that that's most kids anymore. I don't think that's what they did. Peg, yeah, especially when they relate to the real world. I love that quote, and it's so appropriate. I like activities. Nice. Thank you for sharing that for the Twitter tag, because it is so good. I can go on Twitter and find so many great things that I have to be like set a timer because it can overwhelm me, and I will get going down these rabbit holes and spend all evening on it and then not be ready for class the next day. Mike, I really like how you have teams of 4 go over the homework. I always like to have them explain it to each other. They say it in a different language, than we do. Yeah, Jan, Jeannie, we have activities for almost every day. Yeah, the Algebra 1 chat is a really good Twitter tag that I like. And that was pretty new. I used to be more active on Twitter. I enjoy it so much that I limit my time that I spend there because I enjoy it so much. So we've got our skills list. And when you think about our skills list, I'm just going to kind of jump right back into it here because I noticed it's already over 30 past. Is when you look through that, what skills could you hit with more in depth without feeling overwhelmed that you're hitting every single type of problem? I think your kids, some of you are talking about your struggling kids and that fluency, you need more fluency. If we teach them to be those problem solvers too, and that balance, would the fluency get any easier if they were a little bit more motivated? And so if they're motivated to learn it, even just a little bit, if they and I don't mean motivated like, ooh, let's figure out the shower, maybe I can save a quarter. I think it's more motivated that, ooh, I was able to figure out this tough problem. I can probably do these problems. It's that confidence of I can solve a problem. I can figure this out. And I think that's what motivates kids to maybe get through that fluency quicker. They need the fluency. I'm never going to argue against it, but I think they need the balance to get that. If you did not, Sandra, I noticed you just put up there, I did not receive the skills list. I am going to send that back out because I have been having an issue with my email provider. And so I'm going to make sure, especially I can scroll right back through here. There have been a couple of you who've said you didn't get it. So I am just going to scroll right back through and I will make sure you got it. If you logged in, however you logged in is how I'll contact you. So not a problem at all. And Sandra, I'm always on Google Plus because that's how I'm recording this webinar. So okay, so let's talk about I don't want to butcher your name. I'm so sorry. I think it's Ijara, but I could be totally wrong. I give them time for pair share, but they don't really know what they're supposed to talk about. And that is such a fair thing. And I think kids really need to be trained on that. I used to actually give them a script, and I'll see if I still have a copy of that and I can get that to you. But I used to give them a script of what they're supposed to say in the beginning because they were so bad at it. I would tell one student, please, they were supposed to say, I like this or I don't like this. Why? I got stuck on this step. Do you have an idea? I would tell them exactly, like, fill in the blank, a fill in the blank like script, and I would make them almost write down like their first couple things before they could talk to each other. And then as they got better at that, I took away the script. I didn't like physically take it away, but I didn't make them fill it out anymore because they were trained on what I expected. And then what we were able to do then is I put the vocab for the day on the board, and I would walk around, and it was just training them. So I would walk around and I'd have a class list and I'd put my check marks and I say, if I hear one of these words, I'm putting a check mark next to your name and you're going to be one of my leaders, or, some sort of positive reinforcement, whatever that was. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people didn't get the skills list. So hopefully it's in your email when we're done with this webinar. But if not, I will make sure that you get that. Yeah, because Google Plus I'm on, Facebook, you guys know I'm on. And I'm not seeing, the only ones I'm worried I won't be able to send the skills list to is anybody logged in with Chatwing, because I don't know if it allows me to contact you directly. And I'm on Twitter as well. So we'll make sure you guys get that skills list for sure. So that's, let me pull that up real quick. And you know what? You could probably, because I haven't kind of locked it down yet. This is the webinar here. Oops. This mouse is like crazy. It doesn't want to do it for me. So let's see if it'll work here. So when you hit this little, since you guys are here on the webinar, if you are a member and you're logged in, or if you're just looking for the free resources, here is this search bar. So let's say you're searching for, let's say, linear functions, and you search there. If you're a member, all of the protected stuff, as long as you're logged in, will show up as well. So you could always search just for one topic and be able to see every activity and everything that's right there. So if you search skills list, this one down here that says free gift skills list is the 9th grade. And then the one right up here is for the 8th grade. So, and then you can just click on them, and they are PDFs. So they'll just open up right in your browser, or they'll ask you to download it, and you can download it right on your, so what I would do is I color coded it by unit. So unit 1 is all one color, just to kind of help me visually see where I was at within my curriculum. And then it kind of gives you an idea of your big picture. So find the line of best fit. Unit 3, that's, predicting future events. That can be built into finding the line of best fit. Here is, let's see, I think I missed. Right. Okay, Christy, great question. So just in case anybody didn't see your comment, it says the skills list seems to really jump around compared to other Algebra 1 units I have seen. Is this on purpose or for cylindrical connections? It is, it feels like it jumps around, I believe, because it sorts it out by like linear and then quadratic and the polynomials and the exponents. Because some of those things really build on themselves. So like I was saying, for the FIF6, which is talking about slope at the 9th grade level, the algebra level, they want the slope of a linear, but they also want you to be able to approximate a slope from like a quadratic, or an exponential growth. And they would like you to be able to say, well, given this domain or given this domain, which slope is greater. So there is where it feels like it jumps around because it's going to be used in a different way than in other ones. But then also, if you look at the main idea for each one, it does kind of cycle back through to go deeper on those. So like unit 1 is really made for the review of the 8th grade skills. And then unit 2 goes into the linear, which is covered a lot in 8th grade. And that's why I made the supplement 8th grade units, because if you are assuming they did it in 8th grade as a whole unit, and then you go to 9th grade, that's not going to need the same kind of depth as if you're teaching it for the first time in 8th grade. So it does kind of feel like they jump around because there is the assumption that they did the 8th grade standards. And so that plays into it as well. Great question. I'm so glad you asked that, Christy. Thank you so much. So when we go through the skills, I just broke it into semester 1 or the first half of the year, and then semester 2, just to make it a little bit easier to kind of look at and go through. Now in the 8th grade semester 2, one thing that is completely does not overlap, and so there is a whole unit in the 8th grade supplemental things, is the radicals and the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is not one of the 9th grade Algebra 1 standards, although it could be used in that place. It's not one of the 9th grade standards. And so it really needed to be hit appropriately because students need to be able to prove the Pythagorean theorem in one way or another. So whether that's using some geometry or using the distance formula, they really are needing, the standards really do ask that they are able to prove and use the Pythagorean theorem, the distance formula, and simplify those radicals and do operations with those radicals. Where if you're in the 9th grade, they really do assume that you understand that already. And that's quite a jump. So I'm surprised that they're doing that. So that was a big jump for us in Michigan. In Michigan, radicals were always a huge unit to do. So as you look at your skills list, make sure you identify, what have I done? What can you cross off there? I would really go through and literally like draw a line through them and take a look at what you've got left. And what we can do then is if you need materials, using that search bar, there we are. I had all those up for us. There we go. Too many things open at once here. So if you are a member and you realize you have missed the statistics that are required, please feel free to go right into Unit 4 and get some of those, outliers, frequency. We've got activities. A lot of the activities in the stats unit use the technology, things like Desmos, Gapminder, all of those good things. And so they're all there for you. And it's already 2:46. I'm enjoying the conversation here with you guys a little too much, I think. So, but go through that skills list and take a look at where you're at and what you need to do. And think of your big picture topics. So if you still need to do systems of equations, what are the big things that you could go deeper with without covering every possible example? So how could you go deeper, really help those kids and make that plan? Because we've got the resources right here for you. And we can help you out. And then taking a look at those activities, fit the activities in. And I know some people are thinking the activities need to go after the fluency, and other people's use the activities to motivate the fluency. And so that you're going to need to look at your kids. And I think honestly, you need to try it both ways. I think for a lot of kids, they need that activity or that real world connection or that confidence boost that they can solve a problem without following the algorithm, to give them the motivation to actually be able to follow the algorithm. And so that those activities, there's lots of them on the website. And if we go back to the homepage here, even without being a member, I've got lots of activities targeted. I do have to tell you, these links on the right-hand side, I have been putting these together for years. And there's lots and lots of activities here for you without even paying. So they're there, but people change their links all the time. And so I can't guarantee that these links and things are always going to work. I update them as often as I can, but it would be a full-time job to keep these links up to date that for some of these activities. But they are there for you. So make a plan, take a look at those activities, and then go ahead and think of those big topics and what fluency you would really like. And goodness, I'm going to have to get a different mouse for this because it's scaring me. And so if, there we go, big picture. I'm scared it's going to take off on me again. That's where we were at. So if you'd like to join today, I did tell you at the end I would have a special deal for you. If you wanted to start this month, I would love, good heavens, I would love to have you in. And we are starting and allowing people to come in, try it for, it's not letting me just go down. So I am so sorry. If you're getting dizzy or seasick, I am so sorry. There we are. So if you'd like to join today, just go ahead and hit the red button below. And when you get to the monthly charge, you can just pay $9.97 for this first month. The number one question I get is, oh, thank you so much for joining. But the first question I get, do I have to stay for a whole year? Absolutely not. I am not so naive to think that you are, that this is going to be a perfect fit for every single person. I know every classroom around, I try to make it as perfect as possible, but you know, obviously nothing is perfect. So if you just joined and you cannot access the members area, I am going to go in the back end right now and make sure that you get access here as soon as we are off here. It should be, and you should be able to get in just 1 second. So I apologize. I just don't want everybody seeing your login information, obviously on the webinar, but you will be able to be in about 2 minutes. But if you want to use that code, you are more than welcome to try it out, see if it fits you, and go ahead and for $9.97 for that first month. And then you would get the special subscriber discount. So all of my email subscribers get offered $39 a month. And so you would get that discounted rate as well after that if you choose it is a good fit for you. And then that does include full access to all the resources, the trainings. All the trainings do come with certificates if that helps you out with your evaluation. And then your evaluations, a lot of districts do use it as PD and will accept your hours with the certificate as PD. If you ever need special paperwork filled out, especially as a member, that would be great. And then for your certificate today, there's a Google form for you to fill out with just your name. And then, of course, I need your email address so that I can get you your certificate. But feel free to go to this website, algebra1teachers.com, and just /certificate. And you can put in You'll be able to put in your email address and make sure that you can get your certificate for joining us today. And let's see. So we've got a couple questions here. I am going to take care of that accessing the members area in about 2 seconds here. I can't remember if I am a member. How can I check? If you go to the members login and you put in your email address, you can click I forgot my password, and it will send, if you are a member, it will send you your email. But Christy, I'm more than happy to check that for you as soon as I get done. And I will, I just feel bad because that login, I can't address that person by name, but if you want, I can just drop you a quick email, Christy. That is no problem at all. Do I have materials for solving quadratics and various methods? We do. Those will be in solving quadratics is in Unit 12. Those will be uploaded here within the next 2 weeks is our schedule. We have Unit 11 is going up now and Unit 12 is going up next week. So we are almost completely finished. Yep, once, I'm so sorry that just moved on me. But yeah, so that will be up in about a week and a half. And so it will be there. Unit 12 is almost all created. We just want to edit it, and we're working through all the problems to make sure there's no typos. We have found a couple typos. I had asked somebody to help me out, and we kept finding typos. So I'm being really careful, and it slowed me down just a little bit. But those should be out in the next 2 weeks. Anita, once you're area member for a month, you have download and editing privileges, everything in the members area. Let me go in there for you real quick, just so that you, I make sure I'm answering your question correctly. When you go into the members area, like we've been uploading 10, 11, but so we've got our quadratics as functions. When we go in here, everything is offered to you in Word. You're going to see everything is duplicated. So everything is in Word and in a PDF form. So if you're having a problem, you know, with the Word, but the Word, you just click on it and it'll ask you to download it. I've already given privileges to download it. So it shows up and then you've got it. You can put it in a certain folder, organize it, and it's yours forever. And so, yes, once you're a member, you have downloading. You can download those PDFs at any time. So this is, we've got an activity. You'll see activity for everything. Once in a while, the presentation's a little bit different. And so we don't, but for almost all of them, we have an activity. And so this one was designed to be kind of a pair share. So why is it? You'll see a lot of the activities are asking kids why and what they're doing and all of that. So I hope that's helpful and that answers your question. But yeah, everything is offered in Word and PDF. And then even the presentations we did as PowerPoint and PDF, because just in case those equations don't show up, that way you've got a PDF version. I'm a big believer in having a backup system with your presentations. As you see, I had a backup here because it just gets a little crazy. You know, technology can be a little sketchy. So I tried to make it as trouble-free as possible. And then how long are your lessons planned for? I think what you mean, I have 160 days of lessons plus our 8th grade extra lessons. And I did that because I always hate when there's, 185 days. I planned for about 60 minutes. That way, if your class is a little less or a little bit longer, there are, bell ringers and exit slips in there as well. So it depends on how much homework you like to give, because there are practice sheets and some of them are a little bit longer. Because I know as teacher, I would rather cut some out than have to go look for extra questions. So sometimes those practice sheets can be a little bit long, or the activities could be a little bit long. When I was going through and deciding what to cut out, sometimes I was thinking, well, if they're teaching it in 8th grade or teaching it in 9th grade, they're going to want this or this, and they can take that out. But I did plan most of them to be 60-minute lessons so that most people could figure that out. for what their class needs. And of course, an advanced class is going to get through the lesson much quicker. We talked to Mike today. His classes are only 42 minutes. He might not be able to get those exit slips out. Oh, to fill out the certificate, Sandra, no problem. Let's get that up for you here. There you go. So the certificate is just the / certificate at the end. I tried to make it as easy as possible. Oh, and let's see if I can. I'll put it right in. Oops. All right. Oh, thank you. That's just what I was going to do. You beat me to it. So I was just going to put that in the text box, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I'll put this back up. So yes, I would love to join you guys. I know it's just now 3 o'clock and I want to be respectful of your Sunday afternoon. If you're somewhere sunny, know that I'm thinking of you. It's been cloudy here for a couple of days, supposed to be cloudy for the next week, but at least we'll get a little warm. And I really hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. I will stick around until it looks like all the questions are answered, but I'll be around for about the next 5 minutes. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks so much. I'm so glad that you guys were all able to spend some time with me this afternoon. And I am going in right now to make sure that I am in Michigan. Michael, are you as well? So I love my Michigan. So it should say putting the pieces together for Algebra 1. And then the certificate is more specific about how to teach with the standards so that if you do need to turn it into an administrator, they see something a little bit more specific for you. Thank you so much, Peg. I appreciate you saying that. It really makes me feel nice. Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate that. Michael, where were you from in Michigan? I was born outside of Detroit, but now I am in Grand Rapids. So that has been fabulous. I'm really liking Lake Michigan a lot. So thank you so much. So I'm seeing we've got some new members, and welcome. And yes, and I will make sure I'm going in. Oh, thank you so much. And I am going in right now to make sure your membership is right. I just didn't want other people obviously seeing your login information. So St. Joe is awesome. Okay, so let's go up here. There we are. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to see some of you in the members area. This will be wonderful. And let's see, there we go. Letitia, that is very pretty. Okay. Okay. Letitia, you are all set. You should be able to log in. I do apologize. That was just a quick click. And anybody else who just signed up, you are also, Yeah, Michael, I understand overwhelmed. It can get really overwhelmed. Yes. Try to if I try to focus on one thing at a time. Otherwise I get doing 18 things at once and nothing gets done. Yeah, I understand you one thing at a time, but thank you so much. And I will see hopefully you guys in email and Facebook page and Twitter and see you around. You guys have been a great group. Thanks so much.